The drilling equipment hummed quietly in the maintenance bay as Ji-woo tightened the last bolt on the cooling system. She wiped sweat from her forehead and checked her work one more time. Everything looked good. The mining colony on Keshra 7 might be small and far from Earth, but Ji-woo took pride in keeping the machines running smoothly. Her father Hyun-woo had always told her that good work meant careful work. She reached for her tool bag when the lights flickered. Then they went out completely. Emergency red lights came on, bathing everything in an eerie glow. Ji-woo's heart skipped a beat. Power failures were rare. Something was wrong. The sound of plasma fire echoed from somewhere in the colony. Screams followed. Ji-woo's hands moved automatically, grabbing a plasma torch from her belt. It was not a weapon, but it was something. She moved toward the bay door when it exploded inward. 3 massive figures stepped through the smoke. They were Vralith soldiers. 7 feet tall, with scales that gleamed like dark metal. Their eyes were yellow and cold. Each one carried weapons that made Ji-woo's plasma torch look like a toy. The lead soldier, wearing marks of command on his armor, looked around the bay and then fixed his gaze on her. "A human," Commander Thek said in a voice that sounded like gravel grinding together. The other 2 soldiers, Rin and Vek, spread out to block any escape. Rin laughed, a harsh sound that made Ji-woo's skin crawl. "Look how small it is," Rin said. "Their species should have stayed on their birth planet." Thex walked forward slowly. His plasma rifle came up, and the barrel pressed against Ji-woo's temple. The metal was hot. It burned her skin, but she did not flinch. She kept her eyes on the commander and forced herself to breathe slowly. "You will give us the access codes for your defense grid," Thex said. "You will do this now, or I will paint these walls with what little brain your kind possesses." Ji-woo's mind raced. The defense grid protected the whole colony. If these soldiers got control of it, everyone would die. Her friends, her co-workers, everyone. She thought of Dae-hyun in the medical bay and Yoo-jin in the greenhouse. She thought of the families living here, trying to build a life so far from home. "I do not know the codes," Ji-woo said quietly. Her voice did not shake. That surprised her. Vek moved closer, his weapon trained on her chest. "She lies. All humans lie. Their weak bodies match their weak spirits." Thex pressed the rifle harder against her head. "I will ask one more time. The codes." Ji-woo's eyes moved, not frantically but carefully. She took in every detail of the maintenance bay. She had worked here for 3 years. She knew where every pipe led, where every valve connected, where every emergency system waited. The hydraulic lift system hung overhead, controlled by a simple release switch on the wall. Fuel lines ran along the ceiling, pressurized and volatile. Mining charges sat in locked cabinets 10 feet away, but the locks were electronic and the power was out. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. "We do not have claws or armor, Ji-woo, but we have something better. We have minds that adapt. We have hands that build. We have hearts that do not quit." "I am thinking," Ji-woo said slowly, buying time, "about your species. Where does the Vralith Dominion come from?" Thex tilted his head. Rin and Vek exchanged glances. They had not expected questions. "You attempt to delay," Thex said, but there was curiosity in his tone. "Why would a dying creature care about such things?" "I like to understand," Ji-woo said. She shifted her weight slightly, testing whether they would react. They did not. "Your armor is beautiful. Your strength is impressive. You must come from a world with high gravity." Rin laughed again. "She hopes to flatter us into mercy. Pathetic." But Thex seemed intrigued. "Our world has 3 times the gravity of your weak Earth. We are forged in strength from birth. This is why we conquer. And you serve." Ji-woo nodded slowly. High gravity meant dense muscle, she thought. Dense muscle meant less flexibility. Their armor covered vital areas, but had joints that needed to move. And if they came from a high-gravity world, They would be used to heavier air pressure. Sudden changes might disorient them. Across the bay, she saw movement. Other colonists were being herded into the open area by more Vralith soldiers. She recognized Dae-hyun, his medical coat torn and dirty. Yujin was there too, her hands bound. Their eyes found Ji-woo. She met their gaze for just a moment and let her eyes flick toward the exit on the far side. They understood. They began slowly edging that direction. The codes, Thek said again. His patience was running out. Now, Ji-woo looked at him directly. Her fear was still there, but something else was rising inside her. Something cold and calculating. Something that her ancestors had passed down through countless generations of survivors. No, she said simply. Vex's eyes widened slightly. Rin stopped laughing. Vek raised his weapon higher. You dare refuse? Vex said. Ji-woo's hand moved. It was not fast or aggressive. She reached up slowly and touched the rifle barrel, pressed against her head. Then, she pushed it aside, gently, but firmly. I dare, she said. Because you made a mistake. You assumed I was helpless. And then everything happened at once. Thex grabbed Ji-woo's arm with his free hand. His grip was like iron, fingers digging into her flesh hard enough to bruise. He yanked her closer, lifting her almost off the ground. For a moment, Ji-woo let her body go completely limp. The sudden dead weight made Thex adjust his hold. That was all she needed. Ji-woo twisted hard to the side, using the momentum of his own pull against him. Her small size became an advantage. She slipped down and out of his grip, like water through fingers. Her free hand shot out and slammed against the emergency release button on the wall. The hydraulic lift overhead groaned. Metal shrieked. The massive platform began to drop. Ji-woo was already moving, throwing herself into a roll across the floor. The lift did not fall on the Vralith soldiers. That was not the plan. Instead, it crashed into the fuel line running along the ceiling. The pipe ruptured with a screaming hiss. Pressurized gas exploded outward, flooding the bay with choking vapor. Find her, Thex roared. But his voice was muffled by the chaos. Ji-woo scrambled behind a drilling machine, her lungs burning from the gas. She pulled her work shirt up over her nose and mouth. Years of working in environments with poor ventilation had taught her how to breathe shallow and stay calm. The Vralith, used to the thick atmosphere of their homeworld, were struggling. She could hear them coughing. Her mind flashed back to her childhood. She was 7 years old, watching her father work in the steel mill. He had taken her into the factory on a day when it was closed, showing her the massive machines and rivers of molten metal. Why do humans build such big machines, Papa? She had asked. Hyun-woo had knelt beside her, his rough hands gentle on her shoulders. Because we are small, Ji-woo. But being small is not weakness. A small key opens big doors. A small spark starts great fires. Never let anyone tell you that your size makes you less. But what if someone is stronger than me? Her father had smiled. Then you be smarter. You be faster. You be more determined. Humans did not climb to the top of Earth's food chain because we had the sharpest teeth. We did it because we never gave up. We adapted. We learned. We survived. The memory faded as plasma fire tore through the mist above her head. The shot went wide, hitting a wall and leaving a molten scar. Ji-woo moved again, staying low. The bay was filling with smoke and gas. She knew every pipe, every machine, every corner. The Vralith did not. She reached a control panel and started entering commands. The factory systems were still on emergency power. She activated the atmospheric processors in reverse, pulling air out instead of filtering it in. The bay began to depressurize slowly. Not enough to kill, but enough to make the thick atmosphere Vralith dizzy and confused. Clever animal, Vex shouted from somewhere in the smoke. You only delay your death. Ji-woo did not respond. Words were wasted energy. She grabbed her plasma torch and ignited it. The blue flame cut through the darkness like a star. She used it to slice through a support cable. A piece of equipment swung down, forcing Rin to jump back. She heard him curse in his own language. Across the bay, she caught glimpses of the other colonists. They were moving now, using the confusion to escape. Dae-hyun was helping someone wounded. Yoo-jin was cutting the bindings off other prisoners using a piece of sharp metal. Good. Ji-woo just needed to buy them more time. She found the mining charge cabinet. The electronic locks had failed when the power went out, just as she had hoped. She pulled out 3 charges, small cylinders that were normally used to break through rock. Her hands worked quickly, adjusting the timers and placement triggers. These were tools she used every day. Now, they would serve a different purpose. Your resistance is pointless, Thex called out. His voice was closer now. We have taken your colony. Your people are prisoners. Surrender and die quickly. Fight and die slowly. Ji-woo placed the first charge on a support pillar and activated the timer. 30 seconds. She moved to the next position. You think humans are weak? She said, finally speaking. Her voice carried through the bay. Calm and clear. You think we are easy prey. She placed the second charge. 25 seconds on the first one now. But you did not study us well enough, she continued. You did not learn our history. Humans survived ice ages and predators. We crossed oceans in wooden boats. We split the atom. We reached the stars. The third charge went against the wall that separated this bay from the next section. 20 seconds. And we did all of that, Ji-woo said. Not because we were the strongest. Not because we had the biggest teeth or the hardest scales. We did it because we refused to quit. We do it because when you corner us, when you threaten us, when you make us choose between surrender and survival. 15 seconds. She saw Thex's shadow moving through the smoke, getting closer. Rin and Vec were flanking from both sides. They thought they had her trapped. 10 seconds. We choose to fight, Ji-woo said. Every single time, she ran. Not toward escape, but deeper into the bay, leading them away from where the other colonists had fled. The Vraleth followed, thinking she was panicking. They raised their weapons. 5 seconds. Ji-woo dropped flat behind a heavy piece of machinery. The charges exploded. The support pillar collapsed, bringing down part of the ceiling. The wall charge blew open, and access to the next section. The third charge, the one she had placed last, ruptured another fuel line. The Vraleth soldiers scattered, their formation broken. In the chaos, Ji-woo moved like a ghost, slipping through a maintenance tunnel she knew was there. Behind her, she heard Thex roaring orders. She was hurt. The plasma graze on her shoulder throbbed with pain. Her lungs ached from the smoke. But she was alive. And now the Vraleth knew something they had not known before. Humans were dangerous. The maintenance tunnel was narrow and dark. Ji-woo crawled through it quickly, ignoring the pain in her shoulder. Behind her, she could hear the Vraleth soldiers trying to reorganize. Their heavy footsteps echoed through the walls. They were searching for her, spreading through the colony like a disease. She emerged in the processing section, a vast room filled with ore refiners and conveyor systems. The emergency lights here were still working, casting long shadows between the machines. Ji-woo stayed low, moving between cover points. Her mind was working constantly, planning 3 steps ahead. The Vraleth thought they were hunting her. They were wrong. She was leading them exactly where she wanted them to go. She reached a control station and pulled up the facility map on a backup screen. Green dots showed where colonists were gathered. Red dots marked Vraleth positions. There were at least 20 enemy soldiers in the colony. Too many to fight directly. But fighting directly was not the human way. Ji-woo opened a colony-wide communication channel and sent a simple message in text. Do not engage. Avoid. Survive. Improvise. Make them regret coming here. She did not wait for responses. Movement caught her eye. Rin had entered the processing section, his weapon sweeping the area. Ji-woo pressed herself against a refiner, controlling her breathing. The Vralith soldier moved past her position, confident in his superior size and strength. Humans had hunted prey larger and stronger than themselves for thousands of years. The trick was never about being stronger. It was about being smarter. Ji-woo waited until Rin was standing directly under one of the ore processors. She grabbed a piece of scrap metal and threw it across the room. It clanged loudly against a wall. Rin spun toward the sound, weapon raised. In that moment, Ji-woo hit the emergency dump switch. 3 tons of processed ore poured out of the hopper directly above him. Rin looked up just in time to see the avalanche. He tried to move, but the weight caught him, burying him under rock and metal. His armor saved him from being crushed, but he was trapped, pinned under the debris. One down. Ji-woo moved before anyone could respond to Rin's muffled shouts for help. She entered the central corridor that connected all the major sections. It was a kill zone. Wide and open, with no cover. Exactly the kind of place she needed to avoid. But as she passed a supply closet, the door opened. Dae-hyun pulled her inside quickly. Yoo-jin was there too, along with 5 other colonists. They all looked scared, but determined. "Are you crazy?" Dae-hyun whispered urgently. He immediately started examining her burned shoulder. "You should be running, not fighting. Running just delays the end," Ji-woo said quietly. "How?" Yoo-jin asked. "They have weapons and armor." Ji-woo looked at each of them. "We have more than that. We have home advantage. We have knowledge. We have each other." She pointed at Dae-hyun. "You have a medical lab full of chemicals." Dae-hyun's eyes widened as he understood. "I can make compounds. Irritants. Maybe even some toxic gases, if I mix the right supplies." Ji-woo nodded and turned to Yoo-jin. "Your greenhouse has spores and plant materials. What affects their biology, but not ours?" Yoo-jin thought for a moment. "The Vraleth breathe differently than us. I have fungal spores that might cause respiratory problems for them. We use them to break down waste. But if concentrated, make it concentrated," Ji-woo said. "Spread it through their positions using the ventilation system." One of the other colonists, a maintenance worker named Sang-ho, spoke up. "I can shut down sections, reroute power, trap them in areas where you want them." "I can help with that," added Bo-ra, a young engineer. "We can make this whole colony into a maze that only we understand." Ji-woo felt something warm spread through her chest despite the pain and fear. This was humanity's real strength. Not individual power, but collective action. Working together. Adapting together. "They separated us because they thought it would make us weak," she said softly. "Let us show them they were wrong." The group split up, each person moving to their area of expertise. Ji-woo continued through the colony, drawing Vralith attention whenever she could. She was leaving a blood trail now, the wound on her shoulder bleeding more than she wanted to admit. But she used even that to her advantage. She let the blood drops lead toward the cold storage section. When Vec followed the trail, confident he had tracked her down, he found the door sealed behind him. The temperature began dropping rapidly. Vralith could handle heat better than humans, but cold was different. Ji-woo watched through a window as Vec pounded on the door, his breath turning to fog, his movements becoming sluggish. 2 down, but the Vralith were adapting too. Vex had pulled his remaining soldiers into tight groups. They were being more careful now, checking corners, watching for traps. They had stopped treating the colonists like helpless prey and started treating them like enemies. Ji-woo's communication device buzzed. A text from Dae-hyun. "Gas ready." "Where?" She pulled up the map. Vex had positioned his main force in the assembly hall, using the captured colonists as shields. It was a smart move. Ji-woo could not use heavy tactics there without risking innocent lives. She needed something precise. Another message came through, this time from Yoo-jin. "Spores deployed in vents. Will take 10 minutes to spread. Ji Woo made her decision. She activated the colony's announcement system. Her voice echoed through every room and corridor. Commander Thex, this is Ji Woo, the human you tried to kill. There was a pause. Then Thex's voice came through. You wish to surrender? No, Ji Woo said calmly. I wish to offer you a chance to leave while you still can. She heard him laugh. Your arrogance is impressive for such a weak creature. I hold 40 of your people hostage. I control your colony. What leverage do you think you have? Knowledge, Ji Woo answered. You came here thinking humans were soft targets. You were wrong. Right now, 2 of your soldiers are neutralized. The rest are breathing in spores that will make them very sick very soon. My people have turned every section of this colony into a trap designed specifically for your physiology. And help is coming. We sent a distress signal before you took the communications room. That last part was a lie, but Thex did not know that. You are bluffing, Thex said, but there was uncertainty in his voice. Am I? Ji Woo asked. Ask Rin how my bluff felt when 3 tons of ore buried him. Ask Vec how cold he is right now. The silence that followed was longer this time. This is your one chance, Ji Woo said. Leave now. Or learn exactly how dangerous humans become when you threaten what we love. Thex stood in the assembly hall, his weapon trained on the group of human colonists huddled together. Around him, his remaining soldiers shifted uneasily. Several were already coughing. The spores were working faster than Ji Woo had expected. The commander accessed his tactical data pad, pulling up information on human species that their intelligence division had compiled. What he read made his scales prickle with unease. The file was marked with warnings in red text. Humans were classified as persistence predators. On their homeworld, they had hunted prey, not by being faster or stronger, but by following it relentlessly until it collapsed from exhaustion. They could run for days. They could survive injuries that would kill most species. Their psychological profile showed remarkable resistance to stress and an almost irrational refusal to accept defeat. There were notes about human history, wars that lasted years, even decades, explorers who walked across frozen continents, scientists who tried experiments hundreds of times until they succeeded, a species that had clawed its way up from primitive tools to starships through sheer determination. Commander, one of his soldiers said, voice rough with coughing. We should consider tactical withdrawal. Thex wanted to refuse. His pride demanded he crush these weak creatures. But pride did not win wars. Strategy did. And the strategy here was becoming clear. They had made a fundamental error in judgment. Above them, in the ventilation system, Ji Woo crawled carefully through the ductwork. Her shoulder was agony now, but she pushed through it. Pain was just information. It told her she was alive. She reached a junction that looked down into the assembly hall. 40 colonists were being held at gunpoint. She recognized many faces. Old Min Seo, who ran the cafeteria. Young Jae Sung, who had just arrived last month. Families with children. Her people, her responsibility. She could not save them through force. But she could save them through knowledge. Ji Woo's fingers moved across her datapad, accessing systems that the Vralith did not know existed. Every colony had backup communication arrays hidden in case of emergency. The main array might be under Vralith control, but the backup was still functioning. She began recording. The small camera on her datapad captured everything. The assembly hall, the hostages, the Vralith soldiers, her own battered face speaking directly to the lens. This is Ji Woo of Keshra 7 Colony, she said quietly. We are under attack by the Vralith Dominion. They came, expecting easy prey. They found humans instead. She transmitted the recording on all frequencies, broadcasting to every ship, station, and colony within range. The message would take time to spread, but it would spread. The galaxy would see. Below, Dae Hyun was among the hostages. He had been captured while trying to help wounded colonists. But his hands had not been idle. In his medical coat pocket, he had 3 small vials of chemical compound. Each one was designed to produce thick, choking smoke when exposed to air. Not deadly, but extremely disorienting. He made eye contact with Yujin across the room. She nodded slightly. She had 2 small packets of concentrated spores hidden in her hands. When the time came, they would act. Thex received an urgent communication from his ship in orbit. Commander, we are detecting a widespread broadcast from the planet's surface. The humans are transmitting footage of our attack across multiple channels. The commander's eyes narrowed. A public attack was one thing. Evidence of that attack spreading across civilized space was another. The Vraloth Dominion was expansionist, but they were not stupid. Drawing the ire of the Galactic Council over one minor colony was not strategic. How many casualties have we sustained? He asked his second officer. 2 soldiers incapacitated, 4 showing symptoms of biological contamination, and 3 injured by improvised traps. 0 human casualties, confirmed. That last detail struck Thex like a physical blow. They had invaded with superior numbers and firepower. They should have crushed this colony in minutes. Instead, the humans had fought back with nothing but tools and creativity, and they were winning. Jiwoo dropped down from the ventilation shaft into a side corridor. She was close to the assembly hall now. Close enough to make a difference. She activated the colony-wide speakers again. Commander Thex, I am going to tell you something about humans that your intelligence files might have missed. We are not the fastest species. We are not the strongest. We are not the smartest, though we do well enough. But we have one trait that has carried us through every challenge we have ever faced. She paused, then continued. We do not abandon our own. Ever. You are holding 40 of my people hostage. You think that gives you power. But what it actually gives you is 40 reasons why every human in this colony will fight you with everything we have. We will use tools as weapons. We will turn our home into a fortress. We will make every corridor a battlefield, and every room a trap. Inside the assembly hall, the colonists heard her words. Heads lifted. Eyes that had been dull with fear began to show something else. Hope. Determination. And here's what happens next, Jiwoo said. My people have already sent detailed records of this attack to the Galactic Council, to the Human Colonial Authority, and to every news network within 10 light years. Right now, the galaxy is learning that the Vraloth Dominion attacks civilian mining colonies. How do you think that will affect your reputation? Your alliances? Your trade agreements? Thex knew she was right. Galactic politics were delicate. Power mattered. But so did perception. Being seen as honorless bullies who targeted civilians would cost the Dominion more than this colony was worth. You have 2 choices, Jiwoo continued. Leave now, and this becomes a failed raid that you can spin however you want, or stay. And I promise you that even if you win, even if you kill every human here, we will make sure you pay a price that haunts your Dominion for decades. We will make you famous for all the wrong reasons. In the assembly hall, Daehyun's fingers tightened on the vials in his pocket. Yujin's hand closed around her spore packets. Sang-ho, the maintenance worker, had his hand on a concealed control panel that would shut down the lights on his signal. They were all ready, but they did not need to act. Thex lowered his weapon. The gesture was small, but every soldier in the room saw it. He accessed his communication device. All units, he said slowly. Begin tactical withdrawal to extraction point. Mission is aborted. His soldiers stared at him in confusion. Sir? One of them questioned. The cost-benefit analysis has changed, Thex said, his voice flat. We came for resources and strategic position. What we found is a species that turns everything into a weapon and refuses to break. The intelligence failure was on our command. Continuing this operation would waste more resources than we would gain. He looked at the human hostages with something that might have been respect. Release them, he ordered. The Vralith soldiers withdrew in formation, their movements professional despite their defeat. Within an hour, their ships lifted off from Keshra 7, leaving behind a colony that was damaged but unbroken. Ji Woo sat on a crate in the maintenance bay where everything had started. Dae Hyun was cleaning and bandaging her shoulder wound. His hands gentle, but efficient. Around them, colonists were already beginning repairs. The human ability to bounce back from disaster was showing itself once again. "You should rest," Dae Hyun said quietly. "You lost blood, and you have bruises everywhere." "I will rest when the colony is secure," Ji Woo replied. She tried to move her shoulder and winced. "How many injured?" 12. "No. 12. Trents existen. 12 with minor injuries. 3 with serious but stable conditions. 0 fatalities." Dae Hyun shook his head in wonder. "We were attacked by a military force, and nobody died. That should not be possible." "It is possible when people work together," Ji Woo said. She looked at him directly. "You created those chemical compounds in minutes. Yujin weaponized her plants. Sang-ho turned our infrastructure into a defensive system. Everyone did what they could, with what they had." Yujin approached them, her clothes still dirty from crawling through service tunnels. "The communication array is fully restored. Messages are coming in from everywhere. News networks want interviews. The Colonial Authority is sending support ships. And the Galactic Council has opened an official inquiry into the Vralith attack." Ji Woo nodded slowly. The broadcast had worked. The galaxy now knew that humans could not be pushed around easily. That was good. But it also meant attention, and attention brought complications. 3 days later, a diplomatic vessel arrived. It bore Vralith markings but flew under a flag of truce. Commander Thex himself came down to the colony. This time without weapons, and with an official delegation. Ji Woo met him in the assembly hall, the same place where he had held hostages. This time, the room was full of colonists, who stood together, watching carefully. Dae Hyun stood beside Ji Woo. Yujin was on her other side. They were a united front. Thex looked different without his combat armor. Smaller, somehow. More like a person, and less like a nightmare. He approached Ji Woo, and in front of everyone, lowered his head in a gesture of respect. "I come bearing official apologies from the Vralith Dominion," he said formally. "Our attack on your colony was unauthorized and violated multiple treaties. The officers responsible have been removed from command. We offer full reparations for damages caused." Ji Woo studied him for a long moment. "Why are you really here, Commander?" Thex raised his head. There was something in his yellow eyes that might have been admiration. "Because I was ordered to deliver a message to the Galactic Council, and you deserve to hear it first. Thanks for watching. I have recording this video." He produced a data chip and handed it to her. "This is our official assessment of the human species, updated after the Keshra 7 incident. It will be shared with all member species of the Council." Ji Woo inserted the chip into a reader. Text appeared on the screen, and she read it aloud so everyone could hear. Species: human. Origin: Earth. Classification: Tier 2. Threat: Species. Threat assessment is not based on military capability or technological advancement, but on psychological and adaptive factors. Humans demonstrate exceptional resilience, creativity under pressure, and social cohesion when threatened. They are capable of weaponizing any environment or tool. They do not surrender easily, and will escalate conflicts beyond rational cost-benefit analysis when defending their communities. Recommendation: avoid unnecessary conflict. If conflict is unavoidable, do not underestimate based on physical appearance. The assembly hall was silent as Ji Woo finished reading. Then someone started clapping. Within seconds, the entire room erupted in applause. It was not celebration of violence, but recognition of what they had achieved together. They had shown the galaxy that humans were not prey. Thex waited for the noise to die down. "There is more," he said to Jiwoo. "Something unofficial. From me personally." He stepped closer, his voice lower so only those nearby could hear. "In my years of military service, I have conquered 17 worlds. I have fought 30 different species. Until I came here, I believed strength was measured in muscle and metal. You taught me differently." "What did we teach you?" Jiwoo asked. "That strength is not about what you are born with," Thex said slowly. "It is about what you refuse to give up. Your species should have broken under our assault. Instead, you turned your home into a weapon and your fear into fuel. You fought not as individuals, but as a single organism, each part supporting the others." He paused, then added, "On my homeworld, we have a saying. The warrior who knows only how to attack will eventually meet the warrior who knows how to endure. I thought I understood it. I did not. Not until I met you." Jiwoo felt something loosen in her chest. The fear and anger she had been carrying since the attack began, to transform into something else. Not forgiveness, exactly, but understanding. Even enemies could learn. Even warriors could grow. "What will you do now?" she asked him. "Return to my people and make sure they learn from our mistakes," Thex said. "And remember the day a human engineer with a plasma torch taught me more about warfare than 20 years of military academy." After the Vraloth delegation left, life in HFY 7 slowly returned to normal. But it was a new normal. The colony installed better defenses, not because they were afraid, but because they were practical. More importantly, they started training programs. Jiwoo found herself teaching a class in what they called environmental combat. It was not about fighting with weapons, but about understanding your surroundings so completely that you could use them to survive any threat. 40 colonists attended the first session. "Welcome," Jiwoo said, standing in front of the group. Her shoulder was still bandaged, but healing well. "This course is not about making you warriors. It is about making you survivors. Humans did not conquer Earth through strength. We did it through adaptation." A young colonist, barely 20 years old, raised her hand. "What if we face something we cannot adapt to? Something too strong?" Trong. Jiwoo smiled. "Then we adapt together. Rule 1. Never let anyone make you feel helpless. You always have options. Always. Rule 2. Know your environment better than your enemy. Home advantage is real. Rule 3. Humans do not quit. Ever. Even when victory seems impossible, we find a way forward." Daehyun leaned against the wall in the back, watching. Yoo-jin stood beside him. "She is different now," Yoo-jin observed quietly. "Still Jiwoo, but something has changed. She learned what she was capable of," Daehyun replied. "We all did. That kind of knowledge changes a person." "Do you think the Vraloth will really leave us alone now?" Yoo-jin asked. Daehyun nodded. "They will. Not because they are afraid of us individually, but because they understand now that attacking humans costs more than it gains. We made it too expensive to consider us easy targets. Across the galaxy, in council chambers and military academies, the footage from HFY 7 was being studied. Humans became known not as the strongest species or the smartest, but as the ones you did not provoke without very good reason. The species that turned mining equipment into weapons and fear into fuel. 6 months later, Jiwoo stood alone in the maintenance bay late at night. The equipment hummed quietly around her, fully repaired now. She touched the wall where Thex's plasma rifle had left a burn mark. She had chosen not to repair that particular scar. It was a reminder. Anyway, her communication device buzzed. A message from her father on Earth, finally reaching her after the long delay of interstellar transmission. Jiwoo. I heard about what happened. I am proud of you, but not because you fought. I am proud because you survived, because you protected others, because you showed them what it means to be human. Remember what I taught you. We are not the strongest, but we are the ones who never quit. Come home safe. I love you. Jiwoo smiled, tears in her eyes. She looked around the bay, at the machines she maintained, at the colony she had helped save. This was home now. These people were her family, and if anyone ever threatened them again, they would find that humans were ready, not because they wanted to fight, but because they refused to lose.